Brian with a slide. We wanted to do a blues. And everybody said, don't do it, because you'll destroy your career. By 1963, when Mick and Keith were writing songs and all that, and kind of dismissed Brian.
I'm not really sort of satisfied, either artistically or personally.
What is anybody else doing?
Bill Wyman, the Rolling Stones' former bassist, has championed Brian Jones's role in the band's formation and early success. Wyman emphasizes Jones's vision, stating, "He created the band. It was his idea to play blues when blues was unheard of in England."
How many more years to buy to let your dog be around? How many more years to buy to let your dog be around?
We wanted to do a blues, and everybody said, don't do it, because you'll destroy your career. No one's ever done a blues record for a single in England. You know, it's the worst thing. Like they said to Ray Charles, don't do a country album because it'll destroy you, and it was the greatest thing he ever did. Well, when we did Little Red Rooster, they said, you know, you're going to kill yourself. It came out on the Friday, and on the Monday it was number one. And Brian, it's Brian with a slide. He's doing it. He's making the song.
He details how Jones not only named the band, but also steered them towards their signature blues sound, secured gigs, and even promoted them through letters to music publications.
Well, let's recap on the Rolling Stones. How did you all get together in the first place?
Actually, I answered an advert for a bass player, that's all. But the rest of them got together individually in jazz clubs and formed a sort of a group.
How long ago was that?
2 years.
And what were you doing when you answered the advertisement?
Engineering, actually.
Brian did everything. He wrote to the music papers. He discussed things about the origins of what is actually the blues and what is R&B. There's all those letters and things. I've got copies of them.
Wyman describes Jones as the one who actively sought out opportunities, stating, Brian wrote to music papers and jazz papers about the Stones and about blues and things like that. So it was his band.
He was brilliant. He was a brilliant musician. He shocked everybody with the quality of his playing. We all dedicated ourselves to the band, and Brian more so than anybody else, because it was his band in the beginning, so it meant the world to him more than it did to the rest of us. When Brian advertised for a band, he chose every single person to come into his band. What is anybody else doing?
Wyman acknowledges the iconic duo of Jagger and Richards, but firmly believes, I don't care what you say about Mick and Keith. If it hadn't been for Brian, they probably would have had a different band.
We're very excited because we didn't expect this sort of reception. We didn't know much about Australia, how big we were or how small we were. And we're very knocked out. I mean, the girls, listen to that, they're wild, you know, we're knocked out, really are.
Are you used to this kind of reception then?
Yeah, we're used to it, but we're not, you know, we weren't expecting on Australia because we didn't think we were very well known.
Well, apparently you're rather well known. First of all, let's deal with some of the numbers. How did all this start?
Well, we just met each other in jazz clubs in London about 2 years ago.
He recognizes Jones as the original Rolling Stone, and the one who set them on the path to becoming the legendary rock band they are today.
Don't get angry with me.
Wyman acknowledges the downplayed role Jones often receives. They weren't Londoners, though Mick always tries on his Cockney accent, which he doesn't deserve. The only working class ones in the Stones were me and Charlie.
Come on, this is me, my baby party, come on. I can't get started, come on.
Hello, I'm Mick Jagger.
Charlie what?
Who?
Charlie what?
Brian Jones.
Keith Richard.
Bill Wyman.
On the question of hair, boys, you're pretty long in the hair. What's the point of long hair these days? I believe it's going out in England and it's going out in Australia.
Yeah, but we still like it.
You thought of anything different, like plaiting your hair or anything like this?
Funny, man.
We've got a comedian here, I see.
I believe some of the Eastern States groups have even suggested that you're effeminate. What have you got to say about this?
Well, darling.
Well, we're not, you know.
Some stupid guy trying to reach another number.
Wyman emphasizes Brian's role in naming the band, referencing an anecdote about Brian spotting Rolling Stone Blues on a Muddy Waters album while making a call in a phone booth.
Hey, time's coming, you're gonna be a rolling stone. You're gonna be a rolling stone.
And so that atonal, bluesy, harmonic structure of all the Stones, so that came from Brian. And then the edginess of the sound, that was Brian.
Well, I feel, yes, I feel.
No matter what anyone says, rock on.
Writing the songs that you write, do you sometimes think that you have a special inspiration for the way that you...
Well, you better ask about writing songs. Better address those questions to Mick and Keith, because they'll tell you more about it.
In a candid interview, Wyman highlights Jones's contributions that are often overshadowed by the later songwriting partnership of Mick Jagger and Keith Richards.
Talk to Keith and to Mick. Oh, yeah. These are the two that are supposed to be all the writing talent. You fellas get together and do most of the writing, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. It's a lot of it, some of it.
Wyman acknowledges the eventual shift in leadership. Brian just deteriorated over the years, and Mick and Keith took over when they started writing.
See, the trouble was, by 1963, when Mick and Keith were writing songs and all that, Andrew was trying to promote Keith and kind of dismiss Brian, get Brian out of the way. And so what he did was he stopped me, Charlie and Brian from doing any interviews with any of the newspapers, any interviews at all, and gave them all to Mick and Keith.
Dear Melinda, Mick is the head of the group. At one time I was, but Mick took over. Don't ask me why.
The future as a Rolling Stone is very uncertain.
Wyman's perspective offers a fresh take on the Stones' narrative, acknowledging Brian Jones' significance beyond his tragic demise in 1969.
It was a very, very difficult decision to make. This is someone that you spent the beginning of the band with, and I mean, it was horrible.
It was very important to us, the fact that we were going to go back out on the road behind a new record, that we resolved this thing with Brian. So Mick and I had to go down and sort of tell Brian virtually, like, hey, Cock, you're fired. Yeah, the fact that he was expecting it made it kind of easier, I guess. He wasn't surprised, and I didn't really even think he took it all in. He was already up in the stratosphere, it was kind of like, hey.
This isn't the first time Wyman has spoken about Brian's role. In a 1989 interview, he similarly emphasized Brian's centrality to the band's formation.
Brian? Brian, how long have you been with the Rolling Stones? Are you one of the original members?
Yes, one of the original members.
What were you doing before you joined?
Well, just sort of bumming around waiting for something to happen, really. I had quite a few jobs, and I was trying to get a band going, but it was unsuccessful until I met up with Mick and Keith, and then that was a successful band.
Bill Wyman's comments reignite the conversation about Brian Jones's legacy within the Rolling Stones, ensuring his place as an originator and key figure in the band's early success.
Well, can you think back to your first engagement? Where was that?
Marquee, Oxford Street, London.
And may I ask how much you got paid for that assignment?
20 quid, which was good, because 6 months later we were still working for 10.
Mick used to stand in front of us. Mick's got the maracas, and the audience just joining in and all that. It just got right into your body. And it was like a tribal gathering.
This perspective challenges the common narrative that solely focuses on Jagger and Richards as the creative core of the Rolling Stones.
He was doing all that stuff without asking even. He'd pick up a flute or just anything that was handy and just create something out of it which wasn't there originally, and it embellished the song so much that it became the catch.
While the sun is bright, or in the darkest night, no one knows.
Can you hear him?
She comes and goes.
He just finds a flute, and he finds a little thing he can play on it.
Or in the darkest night, no one knows.
While their songwriting partnership undeniably shaped the band's later success, Wyman's remarks ensure Brian Jones receives credit for his foundational role.
Bass pedals. There's Brian.
I see a light across the
It's important to note that Wyman's relationship with Jones was complex. He acknowledges a love-hate dynamic, but emphasizes his belief that Jones deserves recognition as the architect of the Rolling Stones.
The only person of the group who came to visit him was Bill. I never see Mick or Keith coming to visit him. Never.
Don't get angry with me.
He don't know if it's right or wrong. Maybe he should tell someone. He's not sure just what it was, or if it's against the law.
Something